Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. We are excited to have you here for our webinar on how to build a multiplex. With all the recent zoning changes, there's a lot to navigate, and we are here to help make sense of it all. First, I want to introduce our firm. We are VictorEric Design+Build alongside VSP Developments, both part of the VictorEric group of companies, a multi-winning firm with over 25 years of experience in the industry. I'm Alejandra from VictorEric, and today we have two experts with us, Bruce Van Hoedenstein, partner of VSP, who brings 30 years of experience in the industry, and Allan Balatico, our designer and operations manager, with over 15 years in the industry. Thank you, and let's dive in.
Thanks, Alejandra. So as she mentioned, I'm Bruce. This is Allan.
Afternoon.
We're going to be doing the webinar. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free just to put them into the chat room and we'll compile them. We'll get to as many as we can. And if we can't, we'll obviously give you an email. You can email us those questions at the end. So for today, we're going to be running through the multiplex development process, assessing development sites in Vancouver, assessing development sites in Burnaby, standardized housing designs, project pitfalls and solutions, multiplex development opportunities, exclusive partner program, and questions and answers. And the reason we're focusing primarily on Vancouver and Burnaby is that both Vancouver and Burnaby have been quite permissive. Vancouver has launched its multiplex program early, and Burnaby has adopted the province's SSMUH, or small-scale multi-unit housing, quite early and are fairly permissive with the regulations, making it good opportunities to develop. So we'll go through, first of all, is the timeline and process of this program. So feasibility stage, probably allowing about 1 month. So we're going to be determining your project objectives, engage your project marketing team, if project is for resale, and assessing the building site for feasibility. Next will be the design stage. This we'd probably recommend to allow approximately 3 to 4 months. And this is where you'll be engaging your designer or your architect and your other consultants and securing financing and engaging your builder or contractor. After that, we have a permitting stage, which will probably take between 4 to 6 months, or 6 to 8 months. Permit submission, hazmat abatement, and demolition. And of course, construction, say 12 to 14 months, depending on the project and how complicated the site is. And of course, wrap up phase after that, which we're saying 1 month. And throughout all of that, we're going to be focusing also on marketing and sales if it's for resale. So I'll let Allan start.
All right, so back to the site eligibility. There's a few things or criteria you have to look at to assess whether your site is eligible for a multiple or multiplex dwelling, especially for two municipalities that we're going to be covering, which is the City of Vancouver and City of Burnaby. Okay, just to dive into to the site eligibility for City of Vancouver. As you all aware, the City of Vancouver has done a bylaws, zoning and regulation changes. I believe that's about almost a year and a half ago. And there were a few things that were changed in the regulations, especially with the previous single zone areas, single and duplex zone areas, which are now consolidated to allow for the new regulation, which is now we call the R1 zoning. So as you can see here, there's areas that are primarily zoned single and duplex before, and now are eligible to build a multiplex type of development. Okay, so anytime you want to look, everyone has access to VanMap. That's the city website where you can get information about your site as well. It's called VanMap. There's a VanMap viewer that you have to that you can download to open up a map where it tells you, once you type in your site, it allows you to actually find if what the zoning is for your property. And if you want to develop into a multiplex type development, there's an option there to look at the info. There's a tab at the top right where it will tell you if your lot is zone R1, RT7, RT9, or the First Shaughnessy district. So other things that you have, the second thing that you have to look for is vehicular access at the rear, which is the lane access. For City of Vancouver multiplex type development, it's actually very important to have this one. If you don't have a rear lane access, then your lot unfortunately is not eligible for a multiplex type development. The third thing is the site frontage and depth. The city, I just want to let everyone know, is very black and white with this. If your frontage is, say, what do I have here? A minimum frontage of 10 meter, which is about 32.8 feet. If your site frontage is even 0.01 or short of that number, you're not allowed to develop into a multiplex. We've had a few of these inquiries already, and the city basically shouted out and said, no, you can't develop. For the depth, that determines basically whether you can have a single building type configuration or a courtyard configuration, which I'll explain later in the further in this slide.
Yeah, so minimum depth for a single building is 99.7. Unfortunately, lots that are, say, like 60 by 60 or 60 by 70 aren't eligible for a multiplex, correct, even if they have the lane.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. And other criteria to consider as well is the heritage designation. You should be able to get this info in your title search. See if there's a designation, heritage designation in your property. Okay. And last but not the least is the floodplain. As you can see to the bottom right there, there are areas in the Vancouver map where it shows areas that are like in the floodplain region. And although the city wasn't clear whether we can build it or not, I think the main concern here is that the cost of building in those areas, because now you're going to have to acquire a geotech engineer, which might involve like pilings, which could significantly increase the cost of construction. However, the city, in one of our inquiries, still advises if your lot or property is within these areas, then they would strongly encourage not to build multiplex development. Okay, so the next item that we're going to cover is the site configuration requirements. This is very important for those of you who are looking to develop into a multiplex, because now it will kind of give you an idea of how to do to configure your site. Whether you want a courtyard configuration or a single building configuration type. So what you have here in the site plan is a courtyard configuration, and what that is that there's a front building and a rear building. Now between them is a courtyard, which is a minimum of 20-foot distance between the two structures. In terms of requirements, there are three things that the city wants us to consider, outlined below. First thing is the detention tank. Now, detention tanks is a mandatory requirement now for multiplex site development, and that is to minimize the amount of water that's actually going into the city system. In terms of size, a tank, you can refer to the appendix that can be found in the or can be searched Google search in the city's website.
Yeah, one of the reasons they're asking for this is they've been quite permissive in terms of the site coverage that they're allowing, and they've increased the impermeable area that you're allowed to do. So Vancouver is on a combined, or a lot of Vancouver is on a combined sanitary and storm system, and when they have heavy rains and everyone just loads into the system all at once, it creates an overload situation, which is not good and can lead to all kinds of problems. So the detention tank is just a way to let that water that comes in from the site slowly into the system that the city system that it is allowed to absorb over time.
Okay, the next item to consider is new tree planting. Now, if you can imagine, there are sites in Vancouver where it's heavily dense, like with existing trees. Now, if your site is one of those, you're not restricted to, or the city is not going to tell you to not build multiplex on those sites. You can by any means, but there's a minimum requirement of replacement trees that you're going to need to provide, based on the lot size and also the amount of trees that you're going to be cutting or you're going to be removing from the property. So that's usually what we do when we're doing the feasibility study. If you come to our office and tell us, hey, I would like to develop, the first one of the first things that we look at is, how many trees do you have on site? How many shared trees you have? Because then that would involve letter of consent from your neighbor for the removal. And now there are some scenarios where we have clients who came in, wants to develop multiplex, and then we told them, you have to ask your neighbor if they're okay with removing the trees. Neighbor says no, then that would considerably impede the any development on your property. So you have to make sure you're good friends with your neighbor, just in case you plan to develop into a multiplex site development in the future for that kind of reason. And last but not the least is the electrical box, or the PMT. You can see here in the site plan, that's the bottom right area of the site. Now, what does PMT? What is PMT? As you may notice that now there's more units that are being allocated on one side. Therefore, the electrical load demand is significantly higher. So the BC Hydro has now implemented this PMT pad-mounted transformer or overhead transformer requirement, just to accommodate the electrical load requirement of the development. Now that, of course, involves a lot of back and forth coordination with BC Hydro, which we can also help out with, or have a electrical consultant to help us out with the process.
Yeah, so generally, we're going to cover this a bit later, but generally in these kind of developments, we'll allow for the pad-mounted transformer. If we get lucky and we don't need it, then it's something we can remove, and then we perhaps get extra parking or extra space at the rear of the property. And just to really quick, basically Vancouver, transmits its power lines at high voltage, 25, 50, 75 kilovolts. And in order for the homes to use it, or a project like this to use it, it has to be stepped down to a usable voltage, 120, 240 voltage, which we all use it. And that's why these are required. Okay.
All right. So moving on to what are the fees? Of course, for the city to allow you to build up to a 1.0 maximum on a standard, or like previously single family and duplex zone areas, they're gonna want something from you in return. So the next item that I'm gonna go over is what we call the density bonus fee. Now, don't mistake it as the DCL or DCC fee. This is in addition to that fee. Okay, so what is the density bonus? You notice to the top right here of the sheet, you see Vancouver map, and it's divided into 3 sub areas. The sub area A being to the left side of Oak Street, anything west of Oak Street. Sub area B is between Oak Street and Fraser Street, and sub area C is anything east of Fraser Street. Now, why is this important? It's important because that dictates how much density fee you're gonna pay, and also based on the size of your lot and the type of development that you're doing on that property. So density bonus fee is a charge to the 0.3, which is the additional density. 0.7, as you can see here, is the what you're actually allowed for a duplex. For this regulation, anything above that now, if you want to develop into a multiplex site development, is going to be the remainder. So you'll be charged a bonus density fee on the 0.3 of the additional FSR.
Yeah, and a common question people have is, if I don't use the full FSR, do I pay the full bonus density fee? And the answer is no. So if you went to say 0.9, you only pay 0.2 FSR towards the bonus density fee.
Yeah. Okay, so how is this applied to your project? There's a few examples on this table here where it illustrates the frontage, of course, because the frontage dictates how many units you can build on site, and also with that is the size of the lot accordingly. So on a 33 lot, an example here is for the lot size, 33 by 122, that's 4,026 square feet. Now, if you're going to go with a 1.0 FSR for this one, you're going to pay a density bonus on the 0.3, which is the 1,208 square feet, and that equates to about $3,624 dollars. Now, if you look into the to the bigger density size, for example, we have one here on the I think the fiveplex on the central size. The bigger the size, of course, the bigger the square footage. Depending on the site frontage, that will also dictate where it falls in the sub area and how much dollar it costs per square foot of that additional 0.3. Okay.
Yeah, and some of these can add up pretty big. We have a couple projects right now where the bonus density fee is sitting close to $400,000. So it's definitely a line item in your pro forma that you don't want to miss.
Okay. Don't worry about it if you're like, I know it could be confusing, but we're here to help. If there's any question at the end, or if you guys would like us to provide you a pro forma, we'd be more than happy to do that for you, or a quick calculation as well. If you're looking to develop into multiplex, we can provide that. Yeah. And now there are options if you want to opt out on the density bonus fee, and we've outlined them below. But in terms of like looking at the pro forma, I don't think there's just two options.
So far, we haven't seen anyone go this route. It seems to be the best option is just to pay the bonus density fee. However, there are other options, and we've got them outlined here, which is the single below market homeownership option, which has to be done in conjunction with the BC Housing Affordable Homes Ownership Program. So this one, you would be offering one unit sold at below market at 50% of the fair market below, which is significant. If you were to even do a small unit, it's probably it just doesn't seem to make economic sense.
Yeah. Especially in Vancouver, where like units are costing like about what, like 1 million.
Yeah, typically Vancouver's probably ranging between $1,000 to $1,500 a square foot for sale pricing. So if you give up, even at $1,000 a foot, you give up half of an $800,000 unit, you're still giving up $400,000, which on most lots would be significantly more than the actual fee.
And for the last part here, the secured rental housing option, that is if you want to go with the 8-unit route, in which case not a lot of it's not.
So far, we haven't found anyone doing this, and you do have access to the CMHC MLI Select program, which does give you lower interest rates and lower down payments and things like that. But from what we've seen, it doesn't appear to make sense. However, if you're want a rental building, this is a good option and could be considered depending on the investor's appetite for this.
Great. All right. There's an additional update to the zoning regulation that the city actually enacted or pushed out. I think that was mid last year, and that is to add some of the restricted zones into the multiple or multiplex type development, and that is the RT7, RT9, and the First Shaughnessy district. Now, these are restricted zones, meaning these are small pockets in the city, which because of the type of development, they're very restrictive. And because of the legislation that came from the province, the city is mandated to add these areas into the new R1-1 zoning regulation to allow for multiple dwelling development. Okay, so this falls in line for RT7, RT9. It falls in line with the requirement of the Bill 44
yep.
requirement. And for the First Shaughnessy district, just keep in mind because of the size of the property in that area, you are going to be restricted to just a 0.5 FSR, because like a 1.0, that's you're going to be building quite a big size development. Right, so looking on. Okay, so we're now moving to City of Burnaby, R1, a small scale multi housing district. Now this was enacted mid last year, and this is to fall in line with the SSMUH or Bill 44 legislation mandated by the province. Now, similar to Vancouver, City of Burnaby also had to rewrite their zoning regulation and consolidate some of the zoning districts to make it easier for not only the of course the designers, the homeowners, city plan checkers to review. It allows everybody to have a better understanding of what they can do on their property. Okay. So in the Bill 44 legislation, this now allow up 3 to 6 dwelling unit on the property, but that's depending on the size and the location. Then the location, if you are close to a frequent transit network, then that allows you to go up to I believe the 6 unit type development, depending of course on the size of your lot. They've now taken out the GFA and FSR calculation under that regulation, which I'll explain later. We have a whole slide for that one. Okay, and eligible lots. These are the lots that were previously zone R1, R2, and now been consolidated, amalgamated to the R1 SSMUH.
Yeah, one thing just to consider, probably obvious in Vancouver, the stratification of these units is allowed, and it also allowed in Burnaby. So from a development perspective, that's quite a good opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Just further clarification on the frequent transit network. Now, these are areas that includes a whole serve at least one bus route where a bus is scheduled to stop at least every 15 minutes on average between 7 a.m. So you don't have to worry because at the City of Burnaby's website under the GIS map, they actually provide information on how many units you can have on your property. So that's one thing that we're quite happy with the new update on the city's websites, because we now don't have to like homeowners or developers like yourself. You can get that information without having to.
Yeah, and it's absolutely certain. Sometimes you get in cases where you're close but not sure. You have to put an inquiry to the city. This saves all that energy, which is great.
Okay. So what you see here is just a screenshot or an excerpt from the zoning regulation. It's simplified now. It's not as crazy as it used to be. It's easier to understand. It's pretty straightforward. It'll tell you based on the size of your lot, how many units you're allowed to build, what the sizes are, like it's your maximum impermeable, your side yards, all those kind of stuff that you need to consider. And also, City of Burnaby, there's a lot of configuration types that you can do on based on the size of your property. Some of which was already confirmed by the city. For example, what we have here to the top right, you have an option to now build 4 detached dwelling on the lot, but that is of course based on the size of your lot and if it allows it. Now, Bruce can confirm here, like for development types in City of Burnaby, it's still very important for sellability to consider providing parking lots or
definitely. Parking is not required, but I think from a developer's perspective, when you're selling for market, it's going to be very difficult to produce a product and not have any off-street parking. So obviously, that's something you want to work hard to provide. That being said, if the product is right beside a SkyTrain or bus, maybe it might sell. But I think it's probably better or safer to definitely provide some off-street parking.
Yeah. One of the big things that differs the multiplex development from Burnaby to Vancouver is its eligibility to have multiple dwelling, even though it doesn't have a lane access. As you can see here to the top right, now this is an abutting property where we don't have a lane access to the rear, and it's still we're still eligible to build a multiplex type dwelling. But for some of the projects or feasibility that we've done for City of Burnaby, this is great. But if you want to provide an attached parking for each unit, then we would encourage to have, of course, the footprint of the building smaller, which then would allow a driveway in the middle or on the side to access the attached garage niche structure or units. Okay. Now this is just because City of Burnaby has now taken out the GFA or FSR calculation. Now how do we know how much density we're allowed for our property? So there's three criteria that that the city actually provided for us to calculate that. How help you guys calculate that? And that is the setbacks, the site coverage, which I'll explain more later, and the building height. Okay, so for the setbacks, there's basically a set side yard or front yard and rear yard setback requirements for any type of development on the property, whether you want to go with a single family dwelling, duplex, or multiple type dwelling, just to make it a lot easier for everyone to understand. Now, first thing is we do the setback. Now that defines your building envelope where you can build, and within that area or the building envelope area, you'll determine how much site coverage you can have. Like site coverage is essentially the footprint of the structure on the property. Depending on the size of your lot or how many units you want to build, you're restricted to a certain percentage of site coverage for the property. Right. So for this one, for example, we have a 33 by 122, which only allows up to 45% site coverage if you want to maximize a 4-unit type development in this one. Now, with that number of units, footprint wise, you only about 1,800 square foot allowable in terms of site coverage. So what we did here is we have the courtyard configuration, which is a building at the front and a building at the rear. Now, the building at the front has 3 units in it. As you can see to the top right here, we have the unit 1 at the first level, and then unit 2 and 3 is like a front back style duplex, and then you have the unit 4 in the rear yard. In terms of density, now how much is that FSR wise? You're looking at about like close to 1.5 almost, because imagine the footprint of 1,200 times 3 level, and also 600. You can go up to 3 level on this one, but we would encourage to stay within the 2 because of the stair circulation. It will limit your space layout with that small footprint. DCC and ACC rates similar to City of Vancouver. There's the fees now to consider with in building multiple type dwelling, and as you can see in the table here, if you want to develop multiple dwelling in your property, you're looking at about 80,000 per dwelling unit on the lot. But if you're building into a multiple, they have the credit system they call it, which then cancel out 1 unit from the total amount of units you're proposing on your.
Yeah. So for example, if you have a single family home that you're demolishing and you're building a 4-unit multiplex, you'd be charged 4 minus 1, which is 3 times that $56,000, and that would be the fee for that. 6, you'd be charged 6 minus 1 or 5 times the $56,000.
Okay. Again, we'll help you out with the calculation here, and we have a direct contact at the city who usually helps us with the fee calculations. I'm more than happy to provide a more approximate number for you, whichever or however many units you're looking at developing in your property. Okay, so that's for City of Burnaby. Now we're going to look at quickly at the issued Canada's housing designs catalog from the province. Now, what is this? Just high level. This is basically just to help out any of you, like homeowners, developers who are looking at, okay, what can I do? What can help me with going to or developing into a multiplex type development. This basically answers like 15% of the first step that we would typically be doing, which is providing you with the concept plan. So what this catalog provides is a few the floor plans or space layout that you can look at, depending on the size of your lot. It's very comprehensive. This is, I think, like an 80-page catalog. It has most of the standard lot size for British Columbia that take into considerations. There's a few design types, design styles, and guidelines to consider as well. But again, this is just for 15% of the design hours. Now, you still need somebody to put that into permit type or permit application type package, where we would be more than happy to help you out with. Okay. Right. Okay. So passing it on to
So we're going to talk about some project pitfalls and solutions. So first one is accidentally going into Part 3 of the building code. So Part 9 is the simple residential part of the building code, and there's certain things that you can do that are going to trigger yourself to get into Part 3, which is going to make your project more expensive. So some of those are exceeding 4 units in one building. So if you do 6 units on a lot, you just want to break that down to 2 buildings. You can still be within Part 9. The other one, as Allan kind of alluded to before, is that travel distance, and going to 4 stories may be permitted, but it's definitely going to kick you into Part 3, which is going to increase your costs. So basically, you're going to have increased consultant and construction cost, more complex project team, and general, more longer construction process. Solution's pretty simple. Stay within Part 9 where possible. So that's one. Next one we're going to talk about is the site restrictions. So there can be a lot of them, and you really want to make sure that you understand all of these. We've had many people buy lots over the years and be very disappointed because of some restrictions that they were just not aware of. So city right-of-ways and easements are a big one, and those can really restrict what you can build and where you can build on the property. Next one is environmental riparian setbacks. If you got a creek or anything on the property or located near a body of water, there's certain setbacks that need to be followed, and they can be quite restrictive. After that, hydro setbacks and restrictions. Hydro has been a pretty hot topic lately. They have started enforcing rules and regulations that they say were there all the time, but have not been enforced for many years. And as a result, there's probably some properties in Vancouver and Burnaby that are difficult to develop with following all their new regulations and setbacks. So it's really important to understand those before you purchase a property. If you already own the property, well, you have it. But if you're thinking of buying a property, these are definitely things you want to consider. And again, peat zones and floodplains. Vancouver actually has a lot of peat. Trout Lake is probably the best example. And they're created by larger lakes that have over the years shrunk, and the lake bed sediment and everything creates this kind of peat. But there's lots of areas with little pockets of it, and Vancouver has a map, and you can use that to check. The other thing is if you go down to the property and you see the sidewalk kind of going all up and down, and the yards are kind of up in this, or the houses are tilted like in Trout Lake, it's pretty obvious that it's in a peat zone. And again, Vancouver has a map of the floodplain, and Burnaby and the other municipalities have maps as well. Although I believe there's less floodplains in Burnaby, maybe on the lower south side of Burnaby. So solution, perform a feasibility analysis. Make sure you're looking at all the local zoning regulations. Make sure you get title and you're getting all the right-of-ways. Do a tree assessment, that's a big one. Look for solid geotechnical. Always allow for the possibility of a PMT. And the other thing with Hydro is coordinate with BC Hydro really early. Hydro is unfortunately undergoing some challenges right now. And they have a bit of a challenging track record lately, and there's quite a few projects in the city actually that are complete, and they don't have power, so they can't convey, and people can't move into their units. So getting on top of Hydro really early, and if you do need a PMT, making sure that that's coordinated well in advance, and you're doing everything you can, because that process is quite onerous and takes quite a while to get through. Okay, so. Next pitfall, involving the sales and marketing team too late. So this one is more along the lines of developing a product that's not aligned with the target market. And I think in Multiplex especially, we really need to be careful here because there isn't a lot of historical data showing what is a good product, but we can kind of guess that we're following along the lines of duplexes and townhouses. So we want to make sure that we're producing a product that's going to align with the market. And what I want and what Allan wants and what Alejandro wants are all different. So we're going to be relying on the sales and marketing team to make sure that we're appealing to a market that is kind of a broad market, and we don't have kind of a niche market that's going to be a hard unit to sell or sell at a low price. Solution, this one's obvious. Engage a real estate marketing team prior to project commitment. And they're even going to help you with things like, what do you expect for the unit sales? And they're not just thinking in terms of dollars per square foot, they're thinking in absolute dollars. They're thinking about where it is, what are you offering, what amenities, how many parking, or how many parking you're not providing. All those things are really important. So sometimes things look good on paper, and they just don't pan out. So you really want to make sure that you have a solid team engaged early. Okay. Next one is poor choice in contractor and consultants. So selecting contractors and consultants with no Part 9 multiplex experience, it's very simple. There's lots of consultants that are great. They do towers and they do big projects. They're probably not the most appropriate person to do these little projects. So we want to make sure that we're just selecting the right contractor and the right consultant with the right experience. So vet them for relevant experience. Make sure your builder is familiar with building new wood frame construction and typical fire separations, like you'd see in a duplex. Adopt an integrated design, build, and development approach. So hire an experienced design team. Make sure your designer will be also coordinating with the consultants. The last thing you want to do, especially if you're unfamiliar, is play the consultant coordinator. You want a designer that's going to coordinate all the relevant consultants for you and make sure that everything's put together properly. And another one here is a big one, which is committing to a project before full financing approval. So ensure appropriate financing is available. So everyone's probably familiar. We've got A lenders and B lenders. A lenders are big banks, credit unions, and they have pretty good terms. Of course, the requirements to get those loans is also tighter and more stringent. You want to make sure that your forma allows for the lending that you have available, making sure that you have the appropriate equity available at the appropriate time. So solution, do a project pro forma, talk to the lender to understand the financing terms and costs well in advance. For those of you who aren't familiar with developing this type of product, you're going to probably be a little disappointed to find out that almost every bank, including A lenders, will be charging a commitment fee, typically around 0.85 to 1%. And if you're dealing with a B lender, that could be 2, 3, 4%. And some of the B lenders, you're talking interest rates that are well into the high double digits. So you want to be careful. A lenders are still going to be pretty reasonable. However, they are going to be more than what you would pay for conventional financing. Why? The project's risky, and it's not as stable as a home that's already built. So make sure you understand all your costs. We're going to just share kind of just a pro forma here just to give an example of all the things you'd expect to see on a pro forma and what it's telling you. So this pro forma is showing us a 4-unit multiplex, Vancouver, R11, and we're going to be building a total of 81 square feet over those 4 units. We're assuming it's all the same. It shows our lot purchase price at $375, and we got our PPT, $1,055, a few closing costs. Has our total land costs. We've got some development management in there. We've got our soft costs, and you can see that that's actually adding up to quite a bit. It's $823,000. Construction costs with a contingency, and of course, then we have our legal, sales and marketing, and finance. And you can see in this case, finance is still substantial. It's almost $500,000, and this shows a project return, a total return of about $2 million, and broken down. Under this particular performance shows a different the way it's broken down. And then on the right here, I won't go into all the details, but just trying to show you that there is a lot of things to consider. So we're considering the lot size, what zoning it is, what we're paying for the land, what our interest rate is, the total duration of the project. In this case, we have 10 months of pre-con time, 14 months of construction, 2 months of sales and marketing and wrap up. And then we have all of the soft costs that are listed below in the 2 columns here that Allan's highlighting. And you can see there's a lot of soft costs associated with this. So it's really important that you understand all these costs, because the last thing you want to do is jump into a project and find out that you have another $500,000 of cost, which may make the project not viable and also might make you in a position where you don't have enough equity or cash to carry on with the project. Thank you. And of course, if you're selling it, and your realtor will have their hand out for a few dollars, and that's important to budget for that as well. One thing to just consider is if it's 4 units or less, no disclosure statement is required, but anything over 4 units does require a disclosure statement if you're going to be doing pre-sales. So that's really important. And if for those of you who haven't done a disclosure statement, if you've bought a condo pre-sale before, you've probably had some nice light reading. They're typically 50 to 100 pages long, and there's a lot of details in there. And as a developer, they have to all be accurate, and there can be pretty big penalties and fines if they're not. So it is something to consider if you're going to go do a project over 4 units with pre-sales. You definitely want to be careful and have that allocated for, and make sure that you've got a good legal legal team that's going to be helping you prepare that.
And again, this sample project performance that we have here is definitely what we can provide you after or during the consultation, providing you give us the lot size, of course, or the information regarding the property, and of course maybe some of the assessment value of the
Yeah. Exactly, and in here also there's a whole bunch of variables, but one of them is of course the sale price, which we're going to be relying on a sales and marketing team. We have enough experience to kind of do a guesstimate, but then we need to make sure that we're hitting the mark with the type of the project and all those things. Be on the leading edge of the multiplex opportunity. How does it work? Partner with VSPD. We can do feasibility, so we'll explore the viability of the project. You can vend in. You can either do if you have a lot, you can put some of that equity towards a project. We're happy to consider those. And of course, we develop it, finance, design, and build, and sell. And we have quite a variety of product offerings. We can help you with the project by becoming a general partner, or you can also, we can just be a service provider with the appropriate services that you need. Okay. Okay, let's just go through this. And we got an exclusive offer today. So project consultation, and basically we'll do a feasibility assessment of the site, approximate construction budget, and we'll do an assessment of the building code and zoning bylaw compliance, which will give you kind of a rough start to making sure that you have a viable project. If you want to take advantage of that, just give us a contact at info@victoreric.com, or you can book directly using the email to follow this webinar. Yeah, thanks everyone for attending, and we're more than happy to answer the questions. Just shoot us an email and we'll get back to you as quick as we can.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.